Hey everyone, welcome. Today we're reading some of the craziest cheating stories from Reddit while starting a brand new slime rancher world. Hopefully we can build an awesome ranch while listening to some insane stories. Grab a snack, sit back, and let's jump straight into the first one. Caught my boyfriend mid-act. For about a week before all of this happened, I could tell something was off. He was replying less, acting distant, making weird excuses, and just felt cold toward me. Before that, our relationship honestly seemed perfect. I never accused him of cheating, but I did tell him that his behavior had changed. Every single time, he denied it and told me I was just overthinking things. Then one day, around 4 p.m., his phone suddenly went offline. That had never happened before. By 10 p.m., I started getting really worried, so I messaged a couple of his friends to see if anyone had heard from him. None of them had, and one of them even said they'd check on him the next morning if he still didn't answer. I couldn't wait that long. His apartment was only about a 10-minute walk away, so I decided to go there myself. When I got to the front door, I could hear loud music playing inside. I knocked. Someone turned the music down. I could hear footsteps, but nobody opened the door. A few seconds later, his roommate came home from work and unlocked the apartment. The first thing I noticed when I walked in was a pair of women's shoes on the floor. My stomach immediately dropped. I ran into the bedroom, but it was empty. Then I opened the balcony door, and there they were. On one side was another woman trying to cover herself, and on the other side was my boyfriend, completely naked, just staring at me in shock. The only thing I could say was, "Really?" Then I turned around and walked away. As I was leaving the building, he actually leaned out the window and shouted. I wasn't replying because my screen was broken. I honestly couldn't believe that's the excuse he went with after everything I had just seen. I texted his friends back and told them everything was fine because I had found him. He was just too busy cheating on me to answer his phone. This happened only a few days ago, and I'm still trying to process it. I blocked him everywhere and promised myself I'd never speak to him again, but the level of betrayal is something I still can't wrap my head around. That excuse has to be one of the worst I've ever heard, but somehow, the next story manages to get even crazier. Let's get into it. 25 years of marriage and husband has been living a double life. I've been married for 25 years, and together we have two amazing kids. We trusted each other so much that neither of us ever felt the need to go through the other's phone. It was never even a thought. One day, though, I happened to catch a quick glimpse of a half-naked woman on his screen. It immediately felt wrong, but I tried to convince myself there had to be some explanation. Later that night, after we got home and he had fallen asleep, I decided to look through his phone for the first time ever. What I found completely shattered my world. There were hundreds of photos and videos, conversations with different women, dating profiles where he pretended to be single, and pictures of him with people I'd never seen before. The deeper I looked, the worse it got. I realized he had been living a completely different life behind my back for what looks like almost 15 years. While I was raising our children, building a future together, and believing we were in a happy marriage, he was secretly doing things I never could have imagined. It felt like everything I believed about our relationship disappeared in a single night. I've known the truth for over 6 months now, and I still haven't told him that I know. Every time I think about confronting him, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know if I'll stay calm or if I'll completely fall apart. Looking back, there were moments over the years when something didn't feel right, but nothing could have prepared me for finding proof like this. 25 years of marriage, 2 children, countless memories, our home, our finances. You can't just walk away from all of that overnight. Some days I think divorce is the only answer. Other days, I don't know what I want anymore. More than anything, I keep asking myself the same question. How can someone look the person they love in the eyes every single day while living such a massive double life? If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, you probably know exactly how this feels. It makes you question everything, including your own judgment and even your own reality. Right now, I'm still trying to figure out how I'm supposed to bring this up, because I honestly have no idea where to even start. 25 years, and it all came crashing down because of one look at a phone screen. It's hard to imagine carrying something like that for 6 months without saying a word. Hopefully things get better for them. But for now, let's move on to the next story. My mom cheated on my dad. I really need some advice because I don't know how to feel about this situation anymore. Growing up, my family was Mormon, and my mom was always taught to suppress any feelings she had toward women. She did exactly that. She got married to my dad, and they stayed together for 23 years. A while ago, she decided she wanted to explore that side of herself. I completely understand that she can't control who she's attracted to, and I genuinely sympathize with that. But when my dad found out and wasn't okay with it, she didn't stop. Instead, she started seeing another woman behind his back and lied about it. Now my parents are separating, and I feel like everyone around us is acting as if none of that matters. My parents always raised me to believe that lying and cheating were two of the worst things you could ever do. My mom taught me that just as much as my dad did, so now I'm sitting here wondering, what changed? The part that's really confusing me is that my mom insists she never cheated. According to her, they were only texting and flirting. My dad tells a completely different story. He says he found messages on her laptop that proved the relationship had become physical. I honestly don't know who to believe anymore. Maybe she cheated, maybe she didn't, but one thing I do know is that she lied, and that's the part I can't get past. My entire childhood, I was told that if you tell the truth, things can be worked out, but now it feels like everything I was taught has been thrown out the window. Right now, my mom has custody of my two younger sisters. I don't think she's a bad mother, but she's also trying to deal with the end of a 23-year marriage while figuring out her sexuality and starting a completely new chapter in her life. Part of me wonders if that's really the best environment for two teenagers right now. I love both of my parents, and that's exactly why this hurts so much. I don't want to pick sides. I just don't know how I'm supposed to process all of this anymore. That's such a complicated situation because there are so many emotions involved. But regardless of everything else, honesty is something every relationship depends on. Hopefully, they can all find some peace eventually. Anyway, let's move on to the next story. Loyal, hardworking, beautiful, and cheated on. I've been married for 10 years, and for most of that time, I honestly believed we had built an amazing life together. Early in our marriage, I helped my husband get custody of his daughter after her mother struggled with drug addiction. I helped him fix his credit, get his finances in order, and together we bought what we thought would be our dream home. We both had successful careers, and I truly believed we were building a future together. I always knew he had struggled with addiction in the past, but I never realized how serious it really was. What I didn't know was that he had been hiding a drug addiction from me for almost our entire marriage. He became addicted to Suboxone after being prescribed it, and when his prescription wasn't enough, he started buying it from a friend's daughter. What makes this even worse is that this wasn't just someone he was buying drugs from. He ended up having an on-and-off affair with her that lasted 4 years. She was struggling with addiction herself and wasn't even taking care of her own children. On top of that, he was stealing my Adderall prescription and giving some of my medication to her. Looking back, I keep asking myself what I could have possibly done differently. I never cheated on him. I always supported him. I worked just as hard as he did, earned just as much money, helped build our home, and stood by him through everything. It feels like he didn't cheat because I wasn't enough. He cheated because it was easy. Over the last year, he's finally gotten clean, and he tells me he'll never cheat on me again. Part of me wants to believe him because I truly believe in marriage, and I've always taken my vows seriously. But another part of me is terrified that if I forgive him, I'll only end up getting hurt all over again. We each have a 17-year-old child from previous relationships, but we don't have any children together. Even though I'm successful and completely capable of taking care of myself, that's never been the point. At work, I'm independent and confident. At home, I just wanted a partner I could trust, someone I could grow old with and feel safe with. Right now, I honestly don't know if that's still possible. Addiction can explain someone's actions, but it doesn't erase the pain those actions cause. Trust is incredibly difficult to rebuild once it's been broken. Hopefully, whatever decision she makes, it ends up being the right one for her. Anyway, let's move on to the next story. Cheating on my loyal GF of 3 years. My girlfriend and I met in college, and we've been together for the past 3 years. She's my third serious relationship, and I'm her first. She's loyal, understanding, and honestly one of the most caring people I've ever met. She trusts me completely and always relies on me whenever she needs something. The truth is, though, I've never been fully invested in this relationship. Physically, she's not really my type, but I've always thought she had the qualities that would make a great wife. At the beginning, everything felt exciting, including our relationship in the bedroom. But after a few months, things started feeling repetitive to me. Instead of talking about it or trying to work through it together, I slowly started looking elsewhere. Over the last 3 years, I've cheated on her multiple times. Sometimes it was with my ex, sometimes with coworkers, and there were a few other situations that should have never happened. Every single time, I kept it a secret, and she never found out. Despite everything I've done, she still believes we're building a future together. She talks about getting married someday, and I just go along with it because it's easier than telling her the truth. If I'm being honest, there was something she did during the first few months of our relationship that completely changed the way I saw her. It wasn't anything huge, but for some reason I could never get over it. Instead of ending the relationship, I stayed because it felt safe. I knew she loved me, and I always had someone to come home to. The worst part is that, deep down, I know I've been treating her like a backup plan. I've convinced myself that I'll leave if I ever meet someone I think is better or once I reach a point in my life where I feel more successful. The more I think about it, the more I realize that she deserves someone who's actually excited to build a future with her. And right now, that person probably isn't me. Sometimes the biggest betrayal isn't getting caught cheating, it's staying in a relationship when you've already decided you don't want a future with that person. Anyway, let's move on to the next story. Got cheated on recently. Everything started when I got a random text from someone telling me that my girlfriend had been talking to another guy like they were more than just friends. At first, I didn't want to believe it, but I confronted her anyway. She denied everything. She told me the girl was lying, that nothing had happened, and that she'd never do something like that to me. I wanted to trust her, but something just didn't feel right. Eventually, I decided to end the relationship anyway because I couldn't ignore the feeling that she wasn't being honest with me. A few weeks later, she finally admitted that she had been talking to that guy. I guess she thought telling me the truth at that point would somehow change my mind, but it didn't. By then, the relationship was already over. Just when I thought I knew the whole story, I found out it was so much worse. It wasn't just one guy. There were multiple guys. Some of them were people I actually knew personally, which somehow made the betrayal hurt even more. Then I found something on her phone that completely shocked me. She had a note where she kept a list of every guy she had been with. According to her, it was so she'd know who the father was if she ever got pregnant. I honestly couldn't believe what I was reading. The part I still can't understand is, why? If she wanted to live that kind of life, why involve me at all? Why spend all that time telling me I was the love of her life, talking about marriage, and making plans for the future if none of it was real? And somehow it gets even worse. At one point, she had a pregnancy scare and told her friends that I was the father, even though the last time we had been together was months before. She knew there was no way it could have been mine, but she still used my name anyway. After everything that happened, I honestly find it really difficult to trust people, not just in relationships, but sometimes even as friends. It's hard not to wonder if people are telling you the truth when you've already been lied to so many times. Some people don't just break your heart, they completely destroy your ability to trust. Hopefully, with time, he'll meet someone who proves not everyone is like that. Anyway, let's move on to the next story. My grandfather was cheating on my grandmother. My grandparents have been together for 54 years, and growing up, I always looked up to them. Last year, my dad passed away. Before he died, he had been married to my stepmom for 23 years, so she's been part of our family for a long time. About 3 years ago, I started getting this strange feeling that something wasn't right between my grandfather and my stepmom. They suddenly became incredibly close. They started going camping together, spending more and more time alone, and it all felt completely out of character. My grandfather had never even liked her that much before, so the change was impossible to ignore. At first, I told myself I was probably overthinking everything. I had no proof, just a gut feeling that something was happening behind everyone's back, so I kept quiet and hoped I was wrong. Yesterday, I was helping my grandfather fix something on his phone when a message popped up from my stepmom. Without really thinking, I opened it and instantly wished I hadn't. The messages confirmed everything I had been suspecting for years. There was no misunderstanding, no innocent explanation. They were having an affair. Reading those messages honestly made me feel sick. The person I keep thinking about is my grandmother. She's one of the kindest people I've ever known. She spent her entire life taking care of everyone else, especially my grandfather. For more than 35 years, she's been the one carrying the family, working hard, and always putting everyone else's needs before her own. She's always been my hero. Now I'm stuck with a secret that I never wanted to know. I feel like she deserves the truth, but I also know that telling her would completely destroy her world after more than 50 years of marriage. I honestly don't know if it's my place to say anything, or if staying silent would be even worse. I've never felt so torn between doing what's right and protecting someone I love. Finding out someone cheated is heartbreaking. Finding out it's your own grandfather, and with someone who's already part of the family, is almost impossible to process. Hopefully, whatever happens next, his grandmother learns the truth in the least painful way possible. Anyway, let's move on to the next story. Should I tell him before his wedding? I recently found out that someone I know is being cheated on, and his wedding is literally this weekend. Now I'm stuck wondering if I should tell him or just stay out of it. We aren't close friends or anything. We used to hang out through mutual friends years ago, and every once in a while we'd end up having these really interesting conversations about life, philosophy, or religion. Even though we haven't really talked in over a year, I've always thought he was one of the genuinely good guys, the kind of person who always tries to do the right thing and honestly deserves the best. Since we last spoke, he moved across the country with his girlfriend, who's now his fiancée. From everything I've seen, he's built a really good life for them. He pays the bills, supports her, and seems completely committed to their future together. Then, out of nowhere, I found out something that completely changed the way I looked at their relationship. Someone I trust told me that before they moved away, his fiancée had been cheating on him with another guy back in our hometown. From what I was told, it never went all the way physically because the other guy backed out at the last second, but they were still meeting up, kissing, and intentionally trying to cheat. The worst part is that it apparently didn't stop after they moved. Whenever she came back to visit, she'd meet up with other guys again. I even heard that recently she made comments about hoping her fiancé wouldn't be around while another guy from our hometown was visiting them. I spent a long time questioning whether I should even believe it. I don't have screenshots, messages, or photos. Everything I know came from someone I trust, who heard it directly from the people involved. So technically, I'm hearing this third hand, and that makes me nervous. Now here's my problem. Their wedding is only a few days away. Part of me thinks I should stay out of it because it's not really my business anymore. We barely talk, and I could end up destroying someone's relationship over information I can't personally prove. But another part of me keeps thinking, if I were about to marry someone who had been cheating on me, I'd want somebody to tell me before it was too late. I kept going back and forth until I finally decided that I couldn't live with myself if I stayed silent. So I reached out to him and told him everything I knew. I made it clear that I wasn't trying to convince him of anything. I simply gave him the information, explained where it came from, and let him decide what to do with it. To my surprise, he handled it incredibly well. He stayed calm, thanked me for telling him, and asked if I had any proof or people he could talk to. I gave him the names I had, and after that, the decision was completely in his hands. Apparently, the friend who originally shared everything with me had some drama with his fiancée in the past, so naturally he questioned how reliable the information was. I honestly don't blame him for that. At the end of the day, I don't know what happened after our conversation. Maybe none of it was true, maybe it was, but at least now he has the chance to find out for himself before making one of the biggest decisions of his life. That's such a difficult position to be in. Sometimes telling the truth can ruin a relationship, but staying silent can ruin someone's entire future. Hopefully, he was able to figure out what really happened before saying, "I do." Anyway, let's move on to the next story. My entire relationship was a lie. I'm a 39-year-old woman and my partner is 50. We've been together for a little over 3 years, and until recently, I honestly thought we had a solid relationship. We don't live together, but I spend about half my time at his place. Our families are close. His elderly father absolutely adores me, and we even share a cat. I genuinely believed we were building a future together. A few nights ago, we had another couple over for dinner. We were all hanging out, listening to music through a Bluetooth speaker that was connected to my partner's iPhone. Since everyone had different tastes in music, I asked him for his phone passcode so we could pass the phone around and each queue up a song on Spotify. It seemed like the easiest way to keep everyone happy. The moment I asked for his passcode, I noticed something strange. It only lasted a second, but he gave me this look, almost like panic. It immediately made me feel like he was hiding something. I tried to ignore it and enjoy the evening with our friends, but that look stayed in the back of my mind the entire night. The next morning, while he was still asleep, I followed my gut instinct and looked through his phone. I know some people will say I shouldn't have done it, but I honestly don't regret it. He's always known my passcode, and I've never had anything to hide from him. Within minutes, my entire world fell apart. I discovered that he had been paying for a premium subscription on a dating app while I was sitting at home stressing over bills because I'd missed work due to ongoing health problems. He wasn't just browsing either. He had been actively talking to other women on dating apps and social media, calling them beautiful, sexy, and stunning. They exchanged flirty messages, intimate conversations, and private photos. Every new message I opened made me feel even sicker than the last. I couldn't believe this had been happening while I was supporting him, trusting him, and trying to get through one of the hardest periods of my life physically. Instead of confronting him immediately, I decided to test him. I created a fake dating profile using one of my real photos but a fake name. I adjusted the settings until I eventually matched with him. In fact, I had to swipe through 47 different profiles before finally finding his. The second we matched, he sent me the exact same opening message he had clearly been sending to other women. That's when I replied, "I like men who don't cheat or lie about being in committed relationships. If you feel the same way, I think we'd get along." Then I waited. When he finally woke up, I casually told him that he had a new message on his dating app. Watching him unlock his phone and realize exactly who he'd been talking to was something I'll never forget. He instantly knew he'd been caught. At first, he tried explaining everything away by saying he had a sex addiction. He admitted there had been one physical encounter, but insisted it was only oral, as if that somehow made things better. I kept asking for the full truth because, at that point, nothing he could say could possibly hurt me more than what I'd already discovered. Even after everything, I agreed to at least hear him out, not because I wasn't hurt, but because I needed answers before making such a huge decision. The very first thing I asked him to do was message every woman he'd been talking to. None of them knew I existed. They all believed he was single, and I refused to let him simply disappear and ghost them after lying to them for months. They deserved honesty just as much as I did. To his credit, he agreed to do it. Now I honestly don't know what comes next. Part of me wants to walk away because I know I deserve better. Another part of me looks at everything we'd built together, our families, our routines, our shared life, and wonders if any of it can be saved. The hardest part isn't even ending the relationship. It's thinking about breaking the hearts of everyone else. His 85-year-old father treats me like family, and I know my own parents will be devastated too. Right now, I feel completely lost. I've spent the last few days blaming myself even though I know deep down this isn't my fault. If he truly has a sex addiction, I hope he gets the help he needs. But that still doesn't erase the lies, the betrayal, or the pain he caused. Sometimes your gut knows the truth long before your heart is ready to accept it. It's heartbreaking to see someone discover that the person they trusted most had been living a completely different life. Hopefully, she remembers that none of this was her fault and finds someone who truly values her. Anyway, let's move on to the next story. My wife has been cheating on me for 4 years. My wife is 40, I'm 32, and we've been together for 5 years, married for the last 3. Up until recently, I honestly thought we had a great relationship. We rarely argued, we supported each other through everything, and I genuinely believed she was the person I'd spend the rest of my life with. A few years ago, I was using her phone to take a picture of her when a message suddenly popped up. It was from another guy asking how her fresh nails looked. It immediately caught my attention, but I convinced myself I was probably overthinking it. I chose to ignore it and moved on. A couple of years later, something similar happened again. This time it was a different guy. My instincts kicked in, so I downloaded the conversation and read it privately. To my surprise, it looked completely innocent on her side. He was flirting with her, but she clearly told him she was married, wasn't interested, and rejected every advance he made. Reading that actually made me feel relieved. I thought I'd let my imagination get the best of me. But months later, that feeling came back. I couldn't shake the thought that something still wasn't right, so I checked again. The guy from before wasn't there anymore, but someone else was. This time, there was no misunderstanding. The messages made it painfully clear they were having an affair. They had been sleeping together, and at one point she had even talked about leaving me. The more I searched through her phone, the worse everything became. I kept finding conversations with different men, and from everything I could piece together, I think there have been at least 5 separate affairs over the last 4 years. What makes this so confusing is that nothing has changed between us. If anything, our relationship feels better than ever. She still laughs with me, supports me, tells me she loves me, and acts exactly like the woman I fell in love with. If I hadn't seen those messages myself, I never would have believed any of it. During all of this, my dad passed away. She stood by my side through one of the hardest moments of my life. She comforted me when I was grieving, helped me get through each day, and never left me alone. That's what makes this so much harder to understand. How can someone be your biggest source of comfort while also hiding something this devastating? The truth is, I still love her. She's the love of my life. I've dated other people before, but nobody has ever made me feel the way she does. The thought of leaving her completely breaks my heart, but staying after everything I've discovered feels impossible too. I honestly don't know what to do next. I know I have to confront her eventually, but I have no idea how to even begin that conversation. Right now, it feels like no matter what decision I make, I'm going to lose someone I never wanted to lose. Sometimes the hardest part isn't discovering the betrayal, it's realizing you still love the person who caused it. Hopefully, he's able to find the answers he's looking for. Anyway, let's move on to the next story. Wife cheated on me with my best friend. I've been with my wife for 7 years, and we've been married for the last 3. A little while ago, she finally confessed that she had been cheating on me. At first, I thought I was hearing the worst thing possible, but it only got worse the longer she talked. She admitted that about 7 months ago, she willingly started an affair with a guy I'll call Bob. According to her, after a few months she wanted to end it, but Bob threatened to expose everything if she left him. That's when she confessed something I never expected to hear. She told me she had also been having an affair with my best friend, George, on and off for almost 3 years, basically our entire marriage. She also admitted that Bob had got her involved with drugs, something I had absolutely no idea about. The craziest part is that Bob practically lived in our house. He constantly claimed he was suicidal, and because of that, my wife convinced me that I had somehow wronged her and needed to help him. I spent months feeling guilty for something I didn't even do, believing I was trying to fix our relationship, while I was unknowingly letting the man she was cheating with stay under my own roof. According to her, Bob became incredibly controlling. She says he wouldn't even let her go to the bathroom without being on a FaceTime call because he was terrified she'd tell me the truth. Since then, I've seen him try to manipulate other people too, so part of me believes that's exactly who he is. When it comes to George, I honestly don't know what to believe anymore. Every time I've confronted him, he's denied almost everything. But every time my wife tells me more details, I realize he's been lying to my face the entire time. I've also learned that this wasn't even the first time he'd cheated on someone. As unbelievable as all of this sounds, I still love my wife. We have 2 young children together, and despite everything that's happened, I want to see if our marriage can somehow be saved. Since telling me the truth, she's agreed to everything I've asked for. Complete transparency with her phone, therapy, answering every question I have, and doing whatever it takes to rebuild the trust she destroyed. I honestly don't know if reconciliation is possible after everything that's happened, but for the sake of our family, I feel like I have to at least try. Before we wrap things up, we've got one final Reddit story for today, and trust me, this one is definitely worth sticking around for. Let's get into it. Pastor cheating with a former youth member of the church. This happened years ago, but it's something I'll never forget. During one church service, our pastor suddenly walked up to his wife, got down on his knees in front of everyone, and started begging for forgiveness. His wife was crying, and the entire church was just sitting there in complete shock. None of us understood what was happening. At the time, nobody really knew the full story. We all assumed something serious had happened, but no one knew exactly what. A few years later, the truth finally came out. It turned out that the pastor had been having an affair with one of the young women from the church. She was only around 18 years old at the time, while he was somewhere in his late 40s or early 50s. He was married, had 2 children, and was supposed to be someone the entire community looked up to. From what people found out, he would drive her to school, constantly text her good morning and good night, and spent far more time with her than anyone thought was appropriate. Eventually, everything came to light, and that's when his public apology finally made sense. Years have passed since then. The young woman has moved on with her life, gotten married, and now has a child with someone else. Most people assumed that chapter had been closed for good. But just tonight, I noticed something that immediately brought all those memories back. I saw the pastor liking almost every single one of her posts on social media, even pictures of her with her husband and their family. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. Maybe it's completely innocent, but after knowing everything that happened before, it's impossible not to wonder. And that's going to be the last story for today's video. If you made it all the way to the end, I really appreciate you being here. If you enjoyed listening to these Reddit stories while watching some Slime Rancher gameplay, consider leaving a like and subscribing. It really helps out a new channel. Let me know in the comments which story shocked you the most, or if you've ever heard something even crazier. Thanks so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.